So there we have it. One other little thing I want to show you here inside the Layers palette. Renaming layers inside Photoshop 7 has gotten much easier. If you want to rename a layer, just double-click on its name. It becomes highlighted inside the Layers palette, and I can type in any new name I want, like Pressboard, and then hit Return here on the Mac or the Enter key on the PC to change the name of that layer. So there we have it. There's my finished piece that I've created using Photoshop 7's new Pattern Maker, Photoshop 7's wealth of new brushing options, and all the wonderful old settings, the layer effects and blend mode options that I've had inside Photoshop for years. I'm going to zoom in on this image so we can see it a little more up close. Look at all that bubble gum coming off that image. Isn't that wonderful? It actually looks kind of like wax drippings, I think. But in any case, I spent about 20 minutes painting this image, 5 of which I spent inside the Brushes palette, just playing with different settings and getting a sense of what I wanted to do. Now, I wouldn't dream for a second of not saving this image to disk. So why shouldn't I be able to save my brush settings, which required so much work as well? And it turns out inside Photoshop 7 you can. I'm going to go ahead and press the Tab key to bring back up my palettes, and I'm going to switch to the brush tool, either by clicking on it or pressing the B key. And then notice this central palette cluster right there that contains the History and Actions palette. Well, now it also contains a new palette, Tool Presets. When I click on the Tool Presets tab, I bring up this palette. This allows me to store the settings for this tool. So I'm going to click on this right pointing arrowhead to bring up the Tool Presets palette menu, and I'm going to choose this command right here, New Tool Preset. Now, Photoshop automatically suggests to me a name. It's telling me it wants to call it Brush Tool Soft Elliptical 40, which is the diameter of the brush, number 1, because maybe I'll create multiple variations on this. But I'm going to call this the Michelangelo brush. Notice not only can I save all those settings from the Brushes palette, I can also include the foreground color that I used, which I definitely want to do. So I'm going to click OK, and that setting becomes saved inside the Tool Presets palette. So just this amazing wealth of possibilities inside Photoshop 7. And as a special added bonus, one last thing I want to show you. For those of you who like to just have your Layers palette up on screen, get a load of this. This is wonderful. I'm going to close all these palettes here, except for the Layers palette. I'm also going to press Shift F to bring back my menu bar at the top of the screen. And then I'm going to drag the Layers palette to the top of the screen and expand it as much as I can so it takes up the entire right side of the screen. And a lot of people work this way. You might also have a second monitor where you have other palettes placed. You can now save the locations of all the palettes that you have open. You can save which palettes are visible, and you can save how they're grouped together. And you can do this by choosing from the window menu, Workspace, and then choosing Save Workspace. And I'm going to call this one Layers Palette Only. And then I'm going to click on the Save button. And now watch this. Now I can choose Window, Workspace, Reset Palette Locations. Notice Photoshop restores the default palette locations on screen, which is great if I want to access Photoshop's other palettes. Of course, there's several other palettes inside the program that I might want to get access to. And then if I want to go back to my Layers Palette Only view, I go up to the Window menu, choose Workspace, and choose Layers Palette Only. And then just like that, Photoshop restores the previous setting. So you have this amazingly flexible, creative environment inside Photoshop 7. You can save patterns. You can adjust a wealth of brush settings when brushing in paints or edits inside the program. You can save out your tool settings, and you can save your palette locations using the new Workspace functions. So there you have it, folks, a wealth of great new features inside Photoshop 7. I hope you've enjoyed this brief visit to our new Yankee Photoshop. But remember, in this disc, you've only scratched the surface of what Photoshop can do. If you like this sample, and we hope you do, please take a moment to call one of the numbers on screen or drop by the Total Training website to find out more about the full version of Total Training for Adobe Photoshop 7. 14 full-length programs of image editing goodness. Till then, for Total Training, I'm Dick McClelland. See ya!